Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means share it with anybody you think might get something out of it. Other than that, how we doing today, guys? Happy Saturday. Raw, rainy. But you know what? I had to change my plans today. Again, one of the things I've learned to do really well in recovery is just pivot and not let changes throw my day out of whack. In addiction, if I was planning on finishing a deck job and was planning on getting paid for that, I'd have all that, like I talked about 2 videos or 3 videos ago, and the scenarios, putting unrealistic expectations on situations. I'd have everything planned around drugs and the money I was going to get, and maybe setting me up. And when I get up and seen it was rainy, I would have been trying to convince my worker to work with. First, I wouldn't have a worker, but I'd be trying to make these unrealistic plans. And today, I called the customer and said, and it actually worked out well. The customer actually texted me before I called her and said she would prefer we put the appliances in today. And I'm like, fantastic! It's gonna rain now. The only problem is I wanted to finish the deck because I don't have help. I'm only guaranteed help on Saturdays to have a worker with me. And she's like, no big deal. She's like, I don't care. We can wait till next Saturday. The work I've already done has made the deck safe. She's comfortable using it, and she knows I'll finish it next week. And she was thrilled to have the indoor work finished, which was great because it was going to be a rainy, shitty day. So we went, and I had a helper to help me do the indoor work. So we went and had a fantastic day. I finished cleaning the grout for the tile. We got the stove installed. We got the refrigerator installed. The ice maker line installed. We got the dishwasher installed. And then she asked me to replace the faucet and the dishwasher, and the garbage disposal rather, for the she's got a kitchen down in the basement that they're using while we remodel the kitchen, the main kitchen. So we took care of that and just having a good day. As a matter of fact, she had me move a bunch of stuff for, added some more work to the equation that I'm going to go back and do Monday and Tuesday. And that being a good day, instead of out there fighting with the rain, I can go do the deck next Saturday. She added more work to the deck as well, and just made the most of it, guys. And then further, got done at a reasonable time, came home, and again, rainy, raw day. My hip was a little sore. I took a nice nap. I just got up from about a 2-hour nap. I feel really good, so the videos come up a little bit late. But that's what we do, guys. We just learn to pivot. Like, I trust, and I've said this so many times, when you start living a spiritual life and you start really developing a relationship with your higher power, you start to see that everything is working for you, not against you. And you just make the most of it. And you realize, like I realized, that my plan for getting her deck done wasn't what the customer was concerned about. She's much more anxious to see her kitchen finished. I had the electrician there, I had the painter there. We all worked in conjunction, and we basically left her with a usable kitchen. And my customer's absolutely thrilled. Gets to start cooking and enjoying her beautiful remodeled kitchen. And again, me thinking the priority was to get the deck done because that was what was convenient for me. Wasn't such a big deal. I can do that later. Learning to pivot, being spiritual, knowing everything's working for you, just is a beautiful thing. That's kind of what we're going to talk about in the reading today, guys. It is, and the most dangerous thing we can have in addiction is an intolerance to spiritual principles. It's one of the traditions we talk about all the time, and it's in a lot of the readings, and it's incredibly important. It's so important. I see that today. It's not something I used to just hear these things talked about, never took them to heart, guys. Words are spells. These suggestions are action steps to a better life, and that is the most important thing to understand. Everything has meaning to it, and when you put intention and meaning into everything you do, and you follow the program to the best of your ability, it provides you, just like it promises, I promise you a life free of drugs. Challenge yourself to get better, and it'll provide you with a life that you're meant to be living and that you'll love living. So let's get into the reading, guys. Today it's titled Just Maybe. There is one thing more than anything else that will defeat us in our recovery, and this is an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles. When we first came to recovery, many of us had a great difficulty accepting the spiritual principles underlying this program, and for good reason. No matter how we tried to control our addiction, we found ourselves powerless. We grew angry and frustrated with anyone who suggested there was hope for us because we knew better. Spiritual ideas may have had some bearing on other people's lives, but not on ours. And that is exactly how I felt, guys. I felt so isolated, alone, and spiritually bankrupt that I didn't think, I just never considered, right? Despite our indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles, we were drawn to recovery because we could not go on using drugs. There, we met other addicts who they'd been where we'd been, powerless and hopeless, and yet they'd found a way to not only stop using, but to live and enjoy life clean. They spoke of the spiritual principles that had pointed the way for them to this new way of life. To this new way of life in recovery. For them, the principles were not just theories, but a part of their practical experience. Yes, we had good reason to be skeptical, but these spiritual principles spoken of by other recovering addicts really seemed to work. Once we admitted this, we didn't necessarily accept every single spiritual idea we heard, but we did start to think that if these principles had worked for others, just maybe they could work for us too. To begin, that willingness was enough. And the affirmation is just for today. The spiritual principles of recovery might work for me. I'm willing at least to open my mind to the possibility. It's not exactly how my experience was, because I came with a very open mind, because my mind was broken open by addiction, and I had an absolute gift of desperation. I just finally came to because I started in prayer. I started developing a relationship with my higher power before I get in recovery that opened the door for me and made me understand that there was something higher, a higher power, a power greater than myself at play in my life, like I talked about. It made all the difference. So it opened my mind to spiritual principles. When I was doing the work in rehab, it became glaringly obvious. And again, this is why it's great when you do these things in a progression. If you seek professional help and then find recovery, if you actually do the work and you start identifying some of your, some of the reasons that got you there, you're gonna see that it was a spiritual malady. I don't see any other way around it. Seems to be the underlying issue that everybody I talk to, and I talk to almost nothing but recovering addicts all day, every day, other than my customers. And we all understand there is it is a spiritual sickness. It is a spiritual malady requiring a spiritual cure. Now, it's also physical, mental, and and emotional. But underlying the spiritual part, the spiritual cure, makes the biggest difference. So I was very open to spirit. And again, one important detail for me is I had all this past history of I was told this and that wasn't the hypocrisy. People often tie religion to spirituality, and if you've had an issue with any sort of an organized religion, you want to blame it on the spiritual principles. And guys, you got to understand, there is an absolute separation. Religion is not spirituality. Spirituality is not religion. The kingdom of heaven is from within. Your relationship with your higher power is private to you and unique to you, though everybody else can have their own, and depending on how you're wired, it's going to vary differently. So it is up to you and you alone to build your spiritual relationship with your higher power. That's why we tell you to choose your higher power. We're not here saying, God, Allah, Buddha, Spirit, God is, whatever you're comfortable with is. Because at least, and this is just my opinion, it's all the same thing, different, different backgrounds and different cultures will give it different labels. Those labels are man-made. Man does not control our higher power. I call mine God, call yours what you will. So it's the same thing wrapped in a different bow as far as I'm concerned. I know there's people out there that will argue that to the death, but here's my point, guys. If you're going to spend so much time arguing the name, how the hell are you going to align with it and overcome it, right? Show reverence enough to understand that it's much more powerful than you. You're asking for its power to fix your life. How about stop thinking that you have all the info and just developing an open mind? And that's what this reading talks about. An intolerance or having to not being willing, or intolerance, or Jesus, my mind being able to say that. An attitude of intolerance or indifference. I'm sorry, that's what I'm saying. Anyway, an attitude of intolerance or indifference is the first thing that will defeat you in your recovery, because we can't do this alone. Our program is based off a relationship with a power greater than yourself, because we're dealing with a disease. I can't cure a disease. Not one of us can. Now, yes, scientists can come up with this and that and the other, but not for addiction. There is no cure for addiction, just like there's no cure for cancer and there's no cure for so many other things. However, there is treatment, and it's not the Pfizer or big pharmacy answer. It's a spiritual thing. And here's the thing, guys: we will get a daily reprieve if we practice our spiritual principles, practice our recovery program. Our recovery program is based on a set of spiritual principles, so that is literally the foundation for our recovery. So if you're going to fight with that and thinking it doesn't apply to you and think you're not eligible for it, then you're defeating yourself, because every single one of us is. And guys, it's not like I'm sitting there, having 40 years of spirituality background. This was so foreign to me. It was blowing my mind. And back for all the days that I thought I was, had to be, a one-man army and a one-man island and a one-man community, I was denying my belief in spirituality. And yet I look back now, and I would hesitate to pray, and I wouldn't do certain things for fear of and I would think to myself, oh, I don't want the karma from that, because I don't want to do that because I'm a good person. And literally I would convince myself that even my fear of offending my higher power was just me trying to be a good person. Like, no, it was because I believed in a higher power, and I didn't want to piss it off. I didn't want to invite more negativity into my life that was so full of negativity. That is faith in and of itself. Even though I was denying it, I was practicing it not practicing it, but I was acknowledging it while I was denying it. And I see that now, and that's the problem with man. We can convince ourselves of just about anything if it fits the scenario. That's why we're still dealing with false history from, that is, anyway, I'm not gonna, that's a whole nother topic we won't get into. Guys, an attitude of indifference or intolerance towards spiritual principles is the most dangerous thing you can incorporate. It's gonna shut you off from the richness, guys. Like, I love when my friend recently called it magic, right? And I'm not talking, pull a rabbit out of your hat. But if there is magic that can magically make your life start going in a better direction, magically make you start being in the right places at the right times, thinking the right things, looking at things in the right way, after, for me, decades of being in the wrong place at the wrong time, looking at things from the wrong light, and taking the wrong action day in and day out, and thinking there's no other way I could ever change it because everything I tried failed. Suddenly all I had to do was drop to my knees, pray, start listening, stop thinking I had every answer, and then actually being willing to listen to and adopt these principles, willing to believe, willing to communicate, willing to ask for help. And all of a sudden, guys, like, it's no longer magic, it's reality. My life is dramatically different. Anybody and everybody that knows sees. Like, I walked in the bank yesterday, and even the bank teller was like, what have you done? You look so different. You look like you've taken 20 years off. You're doing so well. I'm so proud of you. I get it everywhere I go, and I'm not saying me. No, it's because it's what God has done for me, and he'll do the same for you. I developed a relationship with my higher power. I turned my entire life over and gave myself. When I get home that night, from the night that I got home from rehab, and I had that little slip, and I realized how screwed I was on my own, I dropped to my knees, and I'm like, God, you put the idea for the YouTube channel in my head. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do anything and everything I hear. I know you're putting the right stuff, because I've seen it happening. Like, I literally would acknowledge to myself, I don't know enough about spirituality. I don't know enough about prayer and meditation. I need to look into this. And an RA from the rehab facility walks by 30 seconds later with a stack of books, like, oh, who wants a book? I grab the book off the top, and ends up being a book on the scientific prayer, a book on prayer, like breaking down the science behind prayer and how to properly pray, or turning the psalm, not properly, but how to turn the psalms into treatments or prayers. And I'm like, whoa. I ended up buying myself a copy of the book. It was amazing. Things like that will happen when you're looking for the answers, instead of bitching about the problem, furthering the problem by denying it. No, I was saying, wow, there's something here I need to learn. Boom, information dropped. Okay, I have a problem with this. I need to face this, instead of just ignoring and denying and saying somebody else's problem. No, saying, I don't know, I need help. You have to invite your higher power into your life. We all have free will. As much as God protected me all those years from my own nonsense, I wasn't finding alignment, and I wasn't finding the riches of believing and of loving and wanting to do better. But as soon as I started applying these spiritual principles to my life, everything changed, guys. I'm literally healing from the inside out. I'm able to shed traumas. I'm able to find the triggers and find the reasons for the actions that I was taking that eluded me for so long. Everything just falls into place. And not to say that anybody's out here, I don't wake up in the morning and there's not, $20,000 added to my bank account that I didn't earn. But I go out and I work hard, and suddenly I'm in a position where I get to own my own business. I get to write invoices instead of collecting a paycheck, and a lot of money shows up in my account because I'm able to go out and earn that today. I get a better sense of self-worth because I understand I'm a part of something. I have intrinsic value for the goodness that I do, for the healing I bring to my community, for the way that I treat myself, for the way that I treat others. That I go to a meeting and I share, and I find a service position, and I run a service business, and I promote videos and post videos sharing my story publicly to help others. That brings me into alignment with what my purpose in life is to help others through helping myself to prove to others that it's possible, and then helping as many others along the way. I've found my purpose in life, and that's something I could never say. I wanted to find out who I was. I hadn't even considered finding an actual purpose. Guys, I came in at 51 years old. I thought any chance I ever had of finding a purpose and building a meaningful life was behind me. At this point, I was just hoping that I could get to a day not using drugs so that maybe I could keep a roof over my head and feed myself. We're so far beyond that. That's what happens when you adopt spiritual principles into your life. You'll get back on track. You'll get strong. You'll get love. You'll get healthy. You'll get just all these beautiful things. At least this has been my experience, and I don't see any reason why it'd be any different for anybody else. Everybody I talk to, again, every one of us has different scenarios, different situations. I'm not living with people who I was, pissing off for 10 years, so I'm not fighting with anybody. Nobody's holding anything over my head because I've made those amends. I've made my amends publicly. And again, there's still more to come. There's still plenty of skeletons in my closet that will continue to come up as they go along. But because I've adopted God, invited God into my life, and adopted God as my father, then I know I'm going to be able to handle them. And here's the thing. I practice these principles in all of my affairs. So when they come up, I don't duck, I don't dodge. I say, okay, what did I do? What do I got to do? And if anybody goes, well, why did you do it? I tell them, so I was an active addict. I didn't make good decisions. I was, usually clueless, and I just wasn't in the right place. This is what I'm doing today. And here's the thing, guys. The biggest amends I make is living the life I live today. People see that, and they see that I'm trying, and that I'm making a difference, and I'm doing good things, and I'm not standing on the street corner with all the thugs trying to, spout and preach and be holier than thou. No, I've learned detachment. I've walked away from that, and I've had the balls to go start a brand new life. One that I had no idea how to do, but I did so with positivity and confidence because that's what God wants from me, right? And that's what God's given me. Guys, an attitude an attitude of indifference or intolerance toward these spiritual principles will defeat you in your recovery. You can't do this alone, and nobody's asking you to. We're all there for you. But so is your higher power, and so is the program. You've got to use all the tools available. I'm not going to go out and try and build a house with my bare hands. I got a truck that I can barely get a passenger in because it's so loaded up with tools. Well, that's what I'm doing here in recovery, too, is I'm loading up my life with just as many tools as humanly possible so that I can have the proper tool for every moment and every situation. And so far, it's working really, really well. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful. Guys, that's the video for today. Thank you so much for being here with me. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We'll see you in the next one.